Hello, everybody. Welcome to the new episode of the Ravezillion series of the Liminal PodQuests, the Dancefloor Experience, Memoirs of a DJ. The Ravezillion series is our exploration of rave culture, a therapy session for raveless ravers, a place where we can discuss the scene that is in such danger since COVID-19 decimated independent events, all events, but primarily the independent ones are the ones who are in trouble. And we're creating this content as a means of continuing conversation, showing that people are not alone and touching base with one another. We have Chiara and myself here, Ivan. We're the curators of Liminal Village of Boom Festival, and we've gone virtual since spring of last year, since that's all we can do. So we've been producing content from our bedrooms and trying to keep you stimulated and entertained. And today's session, we're going to hear from artists, 3 different wonderful artists from different scenes, how they're keeping in touch with their communities, how they're doing, how's life been, and what's so important about the Dancefloor experience that's kind of irreplaceable. And over to you, Chiara, for introducing of our wonderful speakers.
Thank you, Ivan. So yes, I'm Chiara. Welcome everyone who's watching us for this new episode. And the speakers that we have tonight are 3 very special women. The first one, she started performing at 17 in 1992. So she's a true pioneer of the scene of female DJs. And I'm just going to mention a few things because we have the full bio available in the box of the video. And so you can read more in detail if you are curious. So I'm going to mention that she became a night mayor of Amsterdam, not nightmare, night mayor, which is quite a dream actually for a city like Amsterdam to have her as a night mayor in 2010. And so this is a figure that is in between the scene and the local authorities. And she's now producing music. She's not just DJing, and she's performing as part of the duo Isis and Moses, who played in Boom 2018. If you were there, maybe you remember you saw her and Moses playing in the Alchemy Circle. So please welcome DJ Isis. Hello, Isis.
Hi there. Hi, Chiara. Hi, Ivan.
Nice to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
So the second guest, she's originally from France, but she lives in Berlin since 2010. She's a vinyl-only DJ who plays an unconventional crossover between groovy techno, electronica, and B-side oddities of dance music. She's a resident of the Lecken Collective. She's a member of it, and she has been an event co-organizer with the Killa sound system since 2014. Please welcome Killa.
Hello, hello.
Hi, Chiara.
Hello, nice to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
Sweet
And
setup
so-
behind. Love those records.
And the third one, she's originally from Portugal, but she's now living in London. Since 2005, she has been building a reputation for her style and presence behind the decks, gaining a place on the Boom Dance Temples lineup, which, as we know, not so many women make it there. So great that you are one of them. And she's one of the core DJs of the label Boom Shankar, and which she runs together with her husband. And together they also play as Dirty Safi. Nuki is now finishing curating her 4th compilation coming out in the next couple of months. So please welcome Nuki.
Hello, Chiara. Hello, Ivan. Hi there.
Hello.
Yeah,
Hi.
so we have We have a great combination of three women that are based in three cities right now, that, London, Berlin, and Amsterdam, which are going to give us an overview of what's the situation of artists in these places.
And it's worth mentioning that today we are not really being very inclusive of heterosexual cisgendered males. There's none on this call. And that's probably because male, straight, cisgendered heteronormativity has had quite a bit of representation. So slightly balancing the equation there, since diverse voices have a lot to say and not often the podium in which to say it. So a note on symbolism.
So we are going to start with a question to Isis, and we're going to start with a series of questions that are going to give us an idea of what their life was before the pandemic. So Isis, you've been able over your career to shapeshift, adapt, reinvent yourself, event organizer, producer, DJ, liaison between the scene and the institutions. So what is the driving force behind so much creativity? What is your inspiration about?
I have been deeply sucked into the music world ever since I was a little girl. So I've been active playing some instruments, but quite soon got caught by the rhythm of the drum, so to speak. And when I was about 12 years old, I started to collect records, and one thing led to another. And before I knew it, I was playing as a DJ, and I just started to evolve from there and participating in the evolution of modern dance history. Yeah.
So similarly, Killa, what got you into the scene? What got you to shift into professionally spinning those records?
Well, I mean, it's not like it was a conscious decision, right? It's more that I finished school in Berlin. I did a master's as a cultural manager, like art and media administration. I worked in an advertising agency, and then I just took my last salary and bought decks with it and decided it wasn't crazy to actually care about both things. I mean, I tried, I failed. But then I was just making jobs like working in an online record shop and having small events here and there and working with the Killa-san. And then it became a thing, but it was not like I wanted to do that as a job. It's more like it ended up being the most reasonable way to pay the rent. So that was more of a slow progression than a conscious decision.
And very different to an advertising job.
Yes, but very little money too in Berlin. So
you know what you're risking in order to do it. Yeah.
And Nuki, what about you? You kind of represent the psytrance music scene here tonight. And I was wondering, what did you find in this scene that gave you a sense of belonging?
Well, I've been into electronic music since I'm 18, and I used to be a techno lover, well, which I am still. But I think in the psytrance scene, apart from the complexity of the music, which I absolutely love, is also, I think, the people. There's a sense of community, and in the psytrance scene that I've never really found in the other scenes. And I think there's a lot of like-minded people. I feel really comfortable, and so that's where I end up stuck. That's my world.
So about this world, we wanted to show a few memes to see what the internet has been producing about rave culture. There are quite a lot of groups that both Chiara and I are members of, and so we've been following. Some are memes, some are snapshots, and I will give you a verbal overview of what they are, because some people might just be listening and not watching us. So here's a headline from Mixmag magazine, where it says, the headlines read, police mistake pensioners queuing for vaccine for an illegal rave. Police turned up for a rave, but pensioners were just waiting to get COVID-19 vaccines. This happened earlier in the UK, earlier this week. True story as well. Somebody clearly called it as a prank and shows how trigger happy the police are to crack down raves. It must have been great to see the old people suddenly think that they're under arrest for wanting to get their vaccines. Next up is there's a whole, well, first of all, there's cardboard egg cartons up against the wall, and to create a little sound studio, and then there are mainly children's toys and all kinds of gadgets that you might be able to find in a home in spontaneous lockdown, and says, who wants to hear my latest beats fresh from the studio, since everybody's doing DIY studios at the moment. Who doesn't have an access to a legit one. A nod to festival culture. There's two M&Ms. The red M&M is not feeling so well. It's a bit down on the floor, and the yellow M&M has approached it. The caption reads, strangers approaching me while I sit on the floor of a festival contemplating my existence. Yellow M&M asks, you good? Red M&M answers, no. We've been there. A lot of us have been there. Both as the yellow and the red M&M. This is a moment we particularly miss. The caption reads, when you get back to the car after the rave, ... And the car is looking mighty peculiar.
Yeah, this is like a memory from the pre-pandemic time.
Yeah. Then we have, since Glastonbury announced that it won't be happening this year, just like Bernie was not very happy in his both body language and the meme that he became. Afterwards, Bernie's just sitting there impatiently with his woolly mitts, waiting for Glastonbury 2022, because what else is there to do?
And for 2021.
And for 2021, even though this meme came out in 2020, so clearly the prophecies are coming true. Clubbers in 2021, and we see people with gloves and hazmat suits. The only silver lining to this that I can imagine is that it's like a workout sweatsuit. But other than that, damn. And then we have, and then we have, yes, then we have something aspirational. We have memories of how it was going to a rave in 2019, where we have the dinosaur from Toy Story. It was kind of sweet, but now going to a rave after quarantine, we have the T-Rex from Jurassic Park, because we're going nuts after being cooped up for a long time.
And the favorite.
And now this a recent one, we have a grandfather and his granddaughter talking. And grandfather looks joyously over to the granddaughter and says, clubs are back open soon. And the daughter looks at him and says, Granddad, it's been 60 years. Let it go. And this is kind of like laugh cry moment.
Yeah, I mean, because laughing is finding the humor in the situation is at the same time a privilege that we have right now, but also a tool that we have to try to deal with being away from what we love and with not knowing when we will have it back. And so, this is a way to laugh about it, but also to reflect about how hard it is. And these are all topics that we've seen in these memes that we will address now in the questions.
Yeah, so if any meme spoke to you particularly, feel free to reference it. And if you've seen any yourselves, also feel free to reference them. And we want to go back to March last year. One day you wake up and all the gigs are canceled, all the events have been postponed, and clubs are shut down indefinitely. How do you feel? And let's start with Nuki now. Let's go back the other way.
Well, I mean, I was completely overwhelmed because I just saw all our career, our financial stability, everything disappear. Obviously, you went through stages of feeling okay, we just have a little holiday, to then realizing that that holiday actually is going to be longer than expected. And obviously that took a toll in mental health, in a lot of things. But then you just have to be able to turn around and just try to make something from what's happening.
And what has been the main impact on mental health for you?
Well, I think I start having panic attacks. A lot of artists I know, they are depressed. They, being for us, because we are people that travel all the time, that socialize so much, is not just the fact that we're not making money. We're locked at home. We're not seeing anyone. And there's been months and months and months, and obviously that has a very detrimental effect in mental health. Not just to us, to everyone, but I think we suffer a lot from it because we are very social people. Our environment is gatherings with thousands of people.
And now it's very, very different.
Yeah, now we're 2, 3 with the cat.
Killa, what about you? March 2020, how was it?
Well, March started as a wonderful month, as we had the last an event of 2020 on March 6th. And then I was supposed to play in Menschmeyer, which is left, very politically engaged club in next to Lichtenberg. And they were the last club to take down the announcement for the party. So for a whole week, I was in complete denial. My partner was having all of his gigs canceled. All of my gigs were canceled. But I was clinging to this date on the 13th, there is no tomorrow. And I was like, I don't care. Friends were calling me egoistic. I got into fights with people who were like, how can you plan to play this party when everything is closed? And I was like, it's all I have left. Don't take it away from me. And then it was canceled the day before. And then I spent 3 weeks in bed trying to disappear. And then I didn't disappear. And my best friend came and she rang the bell. And she was like, I'm sorry, but I kind of felt I had to check on you. And I was like, why? I thought you would forget about me and life would go on. And then my friends were like, yeah, no. So, after not really thinking, but just being like, okay, I don't exist anymore. I guess my friends will not call anymore because I don't have guest lists to give or drink tickets, or parties. So why would I have friends? And then my friends have been very, very sweet. And then some, I don't know, people started interacting with us, with the collective in a very sweet, unexpected way. And we slowly started trying to find perspectives for the future.
Yeah, so calling in and checking in on one another goes a long way, especially when there's no guest list. Isis, how about for you? How was it?
Yeah, well, obviously kind of the same story. Your whole planned year kind of shattered and fell apart. At first, not sure what the virus would be about because everybody was so stressed out. It was really like, are we gonna drop dead if we walk out on the street? So at first we just locked ourselves up, waiting until we were, I don't know, told what was going on. Then I also have a son who's 9 years old, so I ended up sitting at home with him as well, which personally I enjoyed a lot. But it got a little bit claustrophobic, of course. During the summer it kind of loosened up a bit, but at first it was just everything major lockdown. And luckily in the Netherlands we have a good social support system, so all officially registered artists, they get a monthly allowance. Is that the name? I don't know how you call it in English.
Yeah.
So financially it's not what you want it to be, but you have some food to eat and you can pay the bills, so to speak.
Mm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's very different in different places. So shout out to countries that do actually have a social system in place, even if it's not adequate for artists. And what do you going now? I'm going to continue with you and kind of work backwards. What do you miss the most about being able to play to a live crowd?
Well, at first I tried to make myself believe I wasn't missing it because I don't know, I guess you try to shove it under the carpet, the feeling like, oh, maybe it's good that I don't go out too much. And well, it's actually not bad to go to bed early, that kind of stuff. And then just in June, I recall I did my first gig again, and not a regular gig because we haven't been allowed ever since in the Netherlands, but we do have some kind of like ecstatic dance sessions, for instance, and I could play that, and it was really ecstatic up to a point that I was like, wow, I have been missing this so much, listen to the music out loud, not by yourself, but surrounded with other people, sharing that energy and connecting with each other. And I guess that's the main thing about dancing on a dance floor with people, that you are creating a feel together, and it just wasn't there and still isn't.
Yeah, this is exactly also what I tell myself every day when I put on some loud music and I say, I love going to sleep early. I love going to sleep early. I love this. This is great. Killa, what about you? What are you missing most about playing live to those crowds?
Well, okay, so I have to say, because maybe I didn't say it before, like for me, starting like to DJ in clubs and also starting to box was a process that went parallel and that really fucking saved my life. And when we were not able to box and not able to play, that's really when it became very hard because there was no way to let go of all of that aggression and frustration. So together with the collective, there was a support relief fund that was created. So we played a few radio gigs on her radio and were able to raise money for people who didn't have a European passport, for example, or who were not able to get any support. So it was helpful because it made me feel useful again somehow. And then Heather, who is one of the wonderful members of Lekan and is also a Taibo instructor, started organizing little Taibo session in this venue, Craig Belmer, and having us or other friends DJ play. And it was just wonderful because the people were so into it. And I mean, it made me like, this is what Isis said. After playing there, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I missed it so much. I went home and I felt like I was on top of the world, and then I crashed the next day. But what I miss most is having this headspace, where you just zone out. And then when it's done, you feel so much better. And it's the same with sport and with music. Or sex.
Oh God, let's not talk about sex. I'm going through a massive dry spell. But that's a whole other topic we can do a podcast episode on.
Yeah, I was just about to say we will do a podcast about that.
Lockdown
naked.
But we will also post the Taibo to banging tunes in the comment section because I did it and I can really recommend it if you want to let loose some steam in your home. It's great. And Nuki, what about you? What are you missing the most about the dance floor and the crowd?
I mean, there's a synergy between the dance floor and the DJ while you're playing, or even when you are on the dance floor, there's this energy that is irreplaceable. If you do a live stream, you never get the same kick from it. If you're stomping on the dance floor together, is that collective energy that you're dancing. If you're playing, is that response from the DJ to the dance floor and the dance floor to the DJ that is very special. It gives you like a massive kick. Massive energy, makes you feel euphoric, and they cannot be replaced if for anything else, only if you're on the dance floor.
And this is something we're learning, I think, more and more, and that's a value in all of this, that some things are really irreplaceable, and collective experiences are one that you can't really substitute.
Definitely not.
Because also what you get out of it is irreplaceable, I guess. And so once you're deprived of it, there's something you're not getting from anywhere else. And so you have to learn how to live without it. And I guess this is also something that is teaching us what is rave culture. The moment when you don't have it, you realize what it was. And we came up with a question that is about, if you think of a future anthropologist, maybe like in 200 years time, what would he say about rave culture, before the pandemic, or, when it was still happening? What do you think, like a few words that you think would define rave culture for someone in the future, in 200 years from now?
The anthropologist may also be female or non-binary.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I hope that in 200 years they will refer to the coming up of the dance culture back in the 20th century as the beginning of the new tradition, of the rediscovery of dance tradition in mankind, because I think that is a very important thing, talking about different sexes and different people with different backgrounds. Dance culture has brought so much more than just individual or group expression. It's also about making the boundaries disappear between the different sexes, letting men and women come back together, making heteros and gays coming closer to each other, and people with different nationalities communicating through this non-verbal language, which is music. And it, of course, has come a long way with dance music in general, like from the 20s to the 50s to the 60s to the 70s to the 80s, and then it just hit off. And I would feel very sad for mankind if it would disappear. Is that good for your?
Yeah, I could say many things. It's one of my topics, the history of all of this and how it started actually in the primitive times, and how this is like a new way of doing something really old. But Nuki, what would you say a future anthropologist would say?
I would say there's a religious revitalizing movement of the society to rebel against the system. To just help to relieve from the stress of the everyday life, from the pressure that the system gives you, a necessary religious movement.
Thank you. What about you?
Well, I think I would hope that a future anthropologist would say it was the time when business techno was dying and was being replaced by empowering queer rave culture. That's what I hope. I hope an anthropologist actually do the work and find out what was dying, like this male-centered, business-centered kind of, I'm not going to call names, but that this part of techno was dying, and that then, the break came. And actually, I hope somebody is going to take a note about what was happening before we got brutally paused.
It's a great perspective, because it's allowing us also to see something about the post-pandemic version of rave culture, and we might be able to go back to it in a question at the end if we have time. But now let's also focus a bit on your relationship with your community, because every DJ has friends and followers and fans that follow them around in the different parties and even over the years. So how has it been, your relationship with your followers, your friends, your fans in this period? How did it change? Nuki, would you like to start?
Well, I feel like there's been a bit more communication, like even from our side, because we have more time and the followers. Because obviously there's no events, so social media has been an important part. And obviously, we tried many things, from live streams to connect through interviews. But ultimately, for us, I think releasing music, like because obviously I have a record label, we've been really focused like in releasing music and mixes and just connecting with our followers like that, and we've been having a great response. I feel that's the only way to keep the scene alive, really, is through social media, and everyone is locked at home, so there's been a big response from both sides. It's been great.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And what about you, Isis? How has it changed, or has it morphed into something different? How do you get in touch with them?
Well, at first, when it just all started, everybody was starting to do live streams, and I just felt the opposite. I really was like, I am so not inspired by this. I'm really like, I don't feel it. I don't feel like exposing myself without having the relationship to the dance floor, and I was kind of like hiding. And then at a certain point, I realized that well, there needed to be a moment of getting back to the audience and the people that you relate to as a DJ. But it wasn't really until that first gig I did again, even though it was an ecstatic dance gig, but it was still like, remembering me on how important the relationship was. That I actually started to organize a lot of these events myself. So it was kind of like a substitute, I guess. I mean, at this point in history, none of this is allowed in the Netherlands. We're on curfew and everything's closed big time. But I assume that it will start again soon. I would say in 1 or 2 months we should be able to do this again, and that is kind of the real time relationship I still have with my audience. And furthermore, of course, I'm doing stuff like a stream every now and then, and withdrawing in the studio, preparing stuff for Isis and Moses, for instance, to release.
Thank you. And I think we will ask you again about this ecstatic dance you've been mentioning twice, because this is a peculiarity of the Dutch situation, that was one way of gathering that was allowed. So maybe you will tell us more a bit later. And Killa, what about you? The people that used to come to dance at your gigs, did you see them? Are you in touch with them?
Well, we had in the summer, one of the members of the collective passed, which probably would not have happened if we had not been in lockdown. And I think it forced us all to kind of get our shit together. And we were not meeting before, and everybody was very isolated. And suddenly you have someone's parents come to Berlin, and they have to be taken care of. And then you realize organizing the rave is hard, but try to organize a funeral, And then we really realized we have it impacted everyone so badly, but we realized if you're not that bad, you need to get your shit together and connect with people. So we've been having, I don't know, for example, in my flat, I have the decks here and people know it. So they would get in touch and be like, do you want to play a little bit of music for us, in the weekend? So we had little raves at home. My partner was able to get funding for his label, like Super Sun Tools. So Super Sun Tool without S. And so I've been helping him with that, and it's kept me busy. And fans would get in touch and ask questions that that's what you said, I didn't have time to answer. So a lot of social media, and also trying to have, even though it's forbidden, having little dinners with 5-6 people and being illegally cooking together and listening to music and dancing in my flat. That's how we did it mostly.
And you also mentioned something when we had a chat a couple of weeks ago that stuck with me, how there was a different face presented during the live stream and then wondering why, smiling or feeling good when that might not be the state you're in. And I think
I think it's the same. I mean, several DJs I talked to, like other friends like Marum, who's from Portugal, from the Mina Collective, like it's also the same for like Esrestan, who's in Lecken, or Fidel, that you've been in your pajamas for several days, not to say weeks in a row, at home, crying about your fate. And then, you get dressed, you put makeup on, you play this live stream in front of an empty room, and you pretend that it's okay. And it gave me, it made imposter syndrome so much worse, because then after a week I would go to the stream and be like, what am I selling here? It's true that I don't know, it made me feel that I was forcing people to tune into something in the middle of the afternoon that they probably don't want to listen to at that time. And it made me feel like I was such a liar for pretending it was all right, when there is nothing worse than playing in front of an empty club.
Yeah.
I felt the same as well.
Yeah, you relate to that.
Yeah, totally. I had to stop doing it for a while because it was just too much.
And Isis, what about you? Because you were laughing. Do you
relate? Yeah, well, I recognize completely. And I was lucky to do a few of these live streams with the crowd. I mean, it's kind of bizarre because in the Netherlands, if you have professionals with the live stream, they can attend. So you can have dancers, for instance. So luckily we would have dancers in the room that would either dance around the DJ or dance in front of the DJ. Just a handful, I mean, it's not a handful. It's not the whole dance floor full. Although that would be a nice experiment. But yeah, that helps a lot. And then the last live stream I did, they forced everybody to sit down on a chair, which was kind of weird because I had all these chairs in front of my DJ booth. And at first I didn't even dare to look at them because I was like, this is kind of weird, And then at some point I saw them moving on the chair like that. And then you couldn't stand up, but you could kind of dance on your chair. Well, that was as good as it got. Yeah.
Wow. But what about the summer? Because in the summer, the regulations loosened up a bit. Some open air, small event was allowed. How was it for you? Nuki, maybe we start with you again.
Well, I did play in 2 illegal raves, and I'm guilty. I was quite excited at the beginning, but it was strange, because people with masks, everyone is a bit scared. There was people dancing, obviously, they were full, but I didn't really feel comfortable. And I think we all have a moral duty as well, so I've decided that until things get better, we shouldn't really be attending. It's not safe for us. If we get it, we can pass it to someone else. We're all in the same boat, and I think we should all just try to hold back and wait for the appropriate time.
Thank you for this more responsible, rational perspective, which within a scene that is about getting crazy and breaking the rules and breaking the boundaries, this is the balance that we are trying to strike. Because
Yes.
Are we going completely crazy, or are we in these specific situations, in this specific moment in time, are we aware that this is something that can be potentially dangerous for vulnerable people? So yeah, thank you for saying that. And what about you, Killa, in Berlin in the summer? How was it?
Well, so there were some raves happening. I mean, I live right next to this park, Hasenheide, where people had events that were not even events. It was basically random people getting drunk and hashtagging on Instagram, and people that, as a local DJ, I've never seen those people like DJ himself. I've never heard that name. But some people were having events in the park and got picked on by the media. So there was a lot of police and so on, and it didn't feel right because the music was so bad. And I'm not afraid to say it loud. It was like I could hear it from my backyard, and it was terrible. And I was thinking, I can't believe that this is why we're staying home, so people can do that shit. So yeah, it was ridiculous. So Maria F. Scaroni, who is a choreographer and is a member of the collective, created this thing called Techno-Drave, where basically we recorded some sets in advance. And then, I mean, it's a whole concept. It's a bit complicated, but basically we would meet with a group of people outside with headphones, with the music on our phones or MP3 player, and then, you know, drift it. So dance as if we were in the club, but being outside and listening to the same music and going to places we don't usually go to those neighborhoods that are super posh and dancing there in Tiergarten, in the park. So that was one of the things that happened. I mean, it was also forbidden, but it felt okay because you're outside in a small group, and it was the same as doing sports outside. And then I was booked at a few illegal parties that were busted for my playtime, so it didn't happen. So I guess I'm innocent, but I tried to play. And then events were allowed in Berlin, like some of the clubs with an open air space were able to have parties. And I think as promoters, we are professionals. We've been able to keep things to an okay level during our events, and it felt a little bit unfair that as rave professionals, we don't get to organize events because we're not a venue. So we had a few picnics outside with like very little speakers and like 70 people having the contact list and the disinfectant spray and whatnot. And we had a few of that, but as a vinyl DJ, it's not fun for me because I need a setup that works. And I also said, let somebody play who can play on a tractor controller, because like for me, it doesn't make sense for anyone. So this is the technical side. If you're outside and stuff is going to get seized by the police, you don't have 10,000 euro worth of equipment.
I was wondering, Killa, because I don't hear you very well. Like your voice keeps on breaking. I was wondering if the others have the same experience as me, that we don't hear her, or you hear
I can
her.
hear it clearly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good enough.
Okay, good. So maybe, yeah, another question about your community in the sense of the other artists and DJs that are in your circle. Can you say something about how they're doing?
I mean, I heard a lot about people having to go back to therapy online. Somehow people who had to start taking antidepressant again because they were not doing good. Berlin is also a place where I think many people come to Berlin because they have also issues with themselves. And it's, I mean, after another death that I'm not going to reference now, but somebody said, Berlin will not judge you, but nobody will catch you if you sleep. And that was really the vibe among artists and musicians, that usually the rave keeps on going, nobody catches you. So when people sleep, yeah.
Thank you. What about you, Isis? What's the general vibe among the other DJs and artists that you know?
Well, I'm not sure if we can speak of a general vibe, but there's people that are really doing their best to start the party as soon as possible. They right now our airport is not really moving, but we have had a very free transport system going all over the planet, and I saw a lot of DJs who were actually flying out to the places that you could play at. And then there were these other colleagues that were complaining about it. So they were saying, how can you fly out now and do that? I mean, I didn't feel like leaving the country because of all the uncertainties that are going on. Of course, also the fact that I have a child makes me more bound to the Netherlands anyhow. You mentioned the fact that I was night mayor of Amsterdam, and it's a biannual title that is given to the next person, so to speak. And I know the night mayor right now. They have started a helpline for people who are in psychological trouble. So you can actually call them and get therapeutic reflection or help if you're stuck in whatever you're stuck in. I mean, there is more complaints coming out from the youth right now that youngsters are really doing bad. Also becoming more suicidal, depression, all these things that are occurring for people if you exclude them from their fellow human beings. And we are not all so privileged that we have a loving family around us, a partner around us, close friends who are nearby. And I can imagine how hard it must be for people from the scene, especially if they're single, to pass through a time of dividance, or how do you say it, of separation. Separation is the word. So that's you hear the calling gets stronger now. Like, we need to think of solutions, not just medical and financial solutions.
And speaking of people passing, I just wanted to mention, because it was so close to where I am physically, she was both a pioneer and a trans icon and inspiration. Sophie, avant-pop artist, had an accident and died less than 100 kilometers from where I am in Athens, where she was living a few days ago, 2 days ago. And it's also been, there's been this huge pouring of expression for people have companionship from artists in their homes. So all three of you at times have been in people's homes in this time. It's like this intimate thing that you are also often not aware of. This is what we do. Like, I have spent time with all of your mixes. You don't know that. I'm doing it by myself, but I know that because and then so does everybody else who does experience this. And this is this like really decentralized power of art that really keeps you company and gets you through good times, gets you to release things, gets you to cry, gets you to move, gets you to get lost for a moment if that's what you need. And so there's a heightened awareness of the need for that now, because everybody's in a bit like, it's still like you're in prison, mild form. And Killa.
Another thing, because I just realized that I didn't mention that before, and it was that the Black Lives Matter movement, because I just realized maybe I'm the only person who did it like that. It was like being locked at home, and I think especially for the queer scene in Berlin, like we have many POC, we have many trans people and so on in our circle, and the fact that people who had time to be at home and suddenly pay attention to stuff they've not been paying attention to at all for the last decades, and have suddenly, like, on the one hand, there was this positive outpour of compassion and so on from the rave scene. But then on the other hand, there were all of those people asking for free work because guess what? You're a Black woman and they know you're not touring. So, and that was one of the really weird things about the pandemic, that so many socio-economical matters came up, be it the refugee crisis or the new supposed acceptance for trans people, and the death of George Floyd and so many other people. I mean, I'm French. France was fucking it up big time. America too. And I think that made it particular because there were so many shifts happening in the world for so many relevant issues. And it was a very, very sensitive time to have all of that come out at the same time.
Yeah, it was 2020 is going down. It's memorable, for sure. One thing on the heels of this that I wanted to ask is, what are some maybe invisible stories, some things that you've been experiencing? And one very practical thing that's also a financial burden was that you told me, Killa, was about the sound system and storing it, and how a club again was fucked Griezmüller by gentrification, and then not being able to store it. Like things like this, like just how did that go?
Yeah. Okay. So the thing is that we had this party. It was called Wax Treatment, but when we restarted, it will be a new name. And we had the sound system stored in the old Griezmüller that is in Neukölln. And then suddenly, I mean, it was in February. but it was just before the pandemic started. We had to find a new storage. We were looking for places, and then we had it in a rental place, and it was 250 euro a month. And then we realized very quickly, okay, we can't really carry that weight if we're not making money. So we were lucky that one of the organizers knew Dimitri Hegeman, the boss of Trésor, and now we have the sound system stored in Trésor. But I think it's the same for many people. Yeah, you have like a financial burden, be it a location for the equipment or places that you use that you have to pay rent for. And then when you're not making money, it's really a burden. So we were lucky to find storage for the sound system, and I really hope that Trésor doesn't kick us out, because it's half a rent, half a flat rent. So usually we can just have that covered with the event every 3 months. But when we don't have the money, we're not rich enough to pay that on our own, and that's a pity. Yeah.
And Isis, have you gone through something similar? Oh, sorry.
Wait. I just wanted to ask Killa, because when she says sound system, some people might think it's a couple of speakers. Can you please explain what you mean by Killa's sound system?
Okay, I'm not going to take the poster down that's hanging here, but it's
a picture.
Old lady. It's a very old lady, and she's 8 meters times 4 meters. So it is very, very big. It's 8 bass speaker, and then 4 mid-low, 4 mid-high, high. So it's very high. You have to use a ladder or climb on it. So it's not just one small storage box. That shit takes room, and it's heavy. You need wheelbarrows, and you need all kind of equipment to transport it. Yeah.
And so is this kind of thing also, I mean, this is one thing that people won't know about, this is something that's not on the surface. It's not something that somebody's talking about as a pressure, both also a worry of like, okay, what to do with it, and money that's going out the window unless it's resolved. And I was wondering that there are such other invisible costs and burdens to this pandemic that the others have had as well. Like Isis, have you gone through invisible harm?
Well, listening to all of you, I feel kind of privileged, but compared to the other people in the Netherlands, I sometimes feel neglected because I just got the artist fee. But in the Netherlands, everything is taken care of pretty well, I assume. I mean, it's not just all good, but there is like a huge financial compensation for organizations, companies, reoccurring expenses like rent. There's different layers of how you are being helped on a financial level by our government. So on that behalf, we're not doing bad here, I think.
I mean, especially that's also a good thing. It's a good thing to share that.
Yeah, well. I mean, some people might think like, wow, where did that come from? But of course, in the Netherlands, the tax system is organized in a way that you're not getting extremely rich here, but it's hard to go down the drain. Let's put it that way.
Well, I think also, so you were saying that the independent music scene is also supported by the government. It's not just the main businesses, but also this more underground scene managed to receive some support.
Well, if you're not legally registered, I don't think you're going to get any support. So that's really not that good. I mean, you can always apply for an allowance if you have nothing, just like, I have nothing, please help me. But then you have had to lose everything already, what you had. So either you're organized in an official structure and then can receive some compensation depending on your structure. Like if you're just an artist, like a single person or a whole company with staff members, or like if you have, well, as I said, the regular expenses, from a certain level on, you get like compensation.
Yeah, this is good to mention because also Holland has been a place where historically the underground scene has received a lot of support, or has fought to receive support, or to receive acknowledgement and to receive the kind of like to be seen as bringing cultural value to the overall cultural scene. And I just wanted to mention briefly that probably right now you are calling us from Rijhoort, which is this squatted village near Amsterdam that is 40 years old, and that has been pioneering and bringing on the flag of independent culture over all of these decades. And that is a project that is very close to Boom. It's like a sister project that has, and we've been supporting each other over the years that both projects existed. So yeah, good to know that the politicians also recognize this value of art and support.
I'm so sorry to have to interrupt, because it's not as romantic as it seems. The Dutch are very much trade people. So at first, they are always underlining the economic purpose of culture, which I think is kind of a sad thing. In Germany, I think things are much better organized on that behalf. So and the independence in the Netherlands, that's quite under pressure, and has been for the past 20 years. So the last word hasn't been said about that, but well, there will be a whole new story going on about independent culture. Yeah.
In Berlin, I have to say in Germany, because Klaus Lederer, who is the Secretary of Culture, recently said in an interview after announcing the theater would be closed, he was asked, so what about the cultural scene and the art? And he said, listen, this is not the main issue right now. And that's also the same in Germany. It means if they have been support, that it was support for bigger structures, so people who were like micro companies or just freelancers like I was, you could get funding to pay for your Betriebskosten, which means company costs, but it doesn't pay your rent or your food. And basically, they just told artists to go on social help, but it's not the same to get social help or to make little money by doing your thing. You feel like an idiot when you just get this bare minimum to stay at home. So Germany has been helping, but as in, you know, you people are losers anyway, so why don't we give you your loser money? And it's ridiculous, because as a cultural manager, I know how the public institutions are being funded, and they bring in very little money, be it the theaters or the museums or anything. So it's a view that had to change anyway, but it's still very antiquated. It doesn't really match the actual situation.
Nuki, what about the situation in London in terms of fundings and art?
Well, they said artists should reskill.
Like change your career, basically.
Change career. That's what they said. There was adverts everywhere, like you should become like a dancer, or you should become what, I don't know, like a computer engineer. It was quite funny in a way. But I mean, you know, if you've been paying taxes, if you've registered, we've been having support. It's not a lot of money, but you know, it just ticks. You know, you can pay for food, you can pay your bills. There's some grants around. There's the Arts Council that they do grants. You know, you have to do, obviously present a project, but is mainly for musicians. So you know, there's a lot of people getting 10, 15, you know, for the year to fund that project. So I mean, I cannot really complain so much. You know, I think as long as you're self-employed or registered company, you're getting some money from the government. So
I'm really glad you mentioned that, because there was an amazing troll campaign with memes on this whole reskilling thing that the government did.
I know.
There was this meme with, like, it said, Fatima's next job could be in cyber. She just doesn't know it yet. And it has like a ballerina putting on like her shoes. And then they did a counter attack where they had Boris Johnson in a tutu, and it said Boris's next job could be in ballet. He just doesn't know it yet.
No, yeah, it was actually quite fun. It's sad, you know, that the government doesn't really see musicians, mainly as a job, or and they think they should just reskill. But this is the society that we live.
Yeah.
So
Happy days.
what an interesting new normal we're living in. And how good we are at pretending that this is all normal or adapting. But I guess this is the rave zillions we've been talking about, trying to find our way in this maze between mental health issue, regulation, funding for who or for what. This is the jungle that is our new house in a way. I just wanted to ask Isis again about the ecstatic dance thing, because I said before that we would reference it, because it was so peculiar, because I was not aware about it when you told us. Can you say why ecstatic dance was allowed?
Well, ecstatic dance is officially registered in the Netherlands as a form of dance sport, so to speak. So it's not like it's not party, and it is not a party. I mean, it feels kind of festive, but it's an exercise. So in this terms, it's legally seen as exercise. So we have had regulations going from 100 to downscaling to 50 to 30 people. And from the moment they went under 30, I kind of stopped doing it, because it doesn't really make sense to do an ecstatic dance session under 30 if you have to also rent a place and pay other expenses. Because what I would also do is do the silent disco. So we could do it out in the park, meaning there is less risk of contamination, or people have their personal space. And I haven't heard of any infections or problems with the phenomena whatsoever. So it's a healthy possibility. Go out. Yeah.
I mean, compared to how many people are potentially going to get infected while queuing to go to the mall or the store, because malls are banned some places. I think this is where it gets in. We get into like paranoia land around what is allowed and what isn't, what is economically viable, what isn't, what is dangerous and what isn't.
What could be interesting for all of you and anybody watching who's into rave culture in general, there was a scientific research done by big festival organizations in the Netherlands, trying to provide answers on the scale of risk in general for outdoor events. And I really think and hope, especially now we have the blowing test, I don't know if they're available in your countries as well, but it will be much easier to do quick scans and have outdoor raves up and running by this summer.
Oh,
that's excellent.
We're gonna find the link to share that. The blowing test is what I usually use to meet people at the toilet cubicle.
I knew you were gonna say.
I guess it's a new one you're talking about.
I mean, I heard about China starting to do anal swabs, where you have to put something 2 inches up to your derriere and then turn it 10 times. And I was like, oh, well, I know a few people are going to be really into that. But in Berlin, we have the Schnell test, which is just like the mouth swab thing.
Oh, yeah.
And we tried and we didn't do it, but we got some because we wanted to do a Christmas dinner, and apparently they work. So that would also be an option. And I think it's about €8 if you buy a pack of 20. So would also be ready to have that for outdoors event, for example. But I'm not really sure that it would be accepted as a mean of testing people, but it's available in pharmacies now.
And we're gonna do probably a focal episode on this soon to see what are the new developments, research, what are people doing to allow, hopefully, some level of collective experiences this summer onwards. And on the anal swabs, there is also a meme that we can try to track down that it said Berghain can open now because there's anal swabs for testing, and we're gonna dig that right out and show y'all. We're going to move to a wrap up, and we were thinking an aspirational question for all of you, and that is, what role does underground club and festival culture play and will play in the post-pandemic world? We're kind of heading there, hopefully. And I would start with Nuki. What do all these different scenes, what is their role in the world after the pandemic?
Well, I mean, that's what makes people happy, isn't it? So it's a very important role, you know. I think everyone is needing to release. So I think when we can all get out of lockdown, you know, I think festivals, clubs, you know, they're going to be absolutely heaving. So they're going to have to be ready and prepared for a lot of like crazy people. But I mean, I think they are essential. So I hope a lot of the clubs can survive through this, because we need them to survive. You know, we need to dance, to have some fun, you know, because that's what makes us feel alive, you know. And I think that's what's been one of the key points, and to make it more detrimental for mental health is the lack of like fun and contact, and you know, that sense of belonging somewhere, you know, that you get from a party, you know. So yeah, clubs and festivals are they're going to be the new therapy.
And the old therapy for some of us.
And the old therapy, yeah, for sure.
Killa, what do you
Killa?
think? Essential?
Can you remind me of the question quickly?
What's the role of underground club and festival culture in the world after the pandemic? How's
And
that role?
I would like to also, let's look at this question also from the cultural point of view, like the kind of culture that we've been creating and nurturing until now in these underground scenes. How can it then in the post-pandemic world be relevant for the facing the new reality, enacting change, finding new directions?
Well, I mean, from the music side, like, okay, to try to be a little bit less negative, I think it was I hope that we will have a reshift to focus more on music, because it's true that especially in Berlin, the scene became really quite a mess, where we had so many people come in just to party and get high. And that it's true that in some moments you really wondered, why am I even playing music? I could just have a washing machine or a Kalashnikov playing some drum sound, and it would be enough for people to rave. So I really hope that we keep that there is like that understanding that DJing is not just being a clown in front of people on drugs, that we really have a community feeling based on shared values and on music. That's one of the hopes that I have, and maybe also that the German government understands that you can do something underground and still know your shit and still have skilled people around you that shows that path, not because they were idiots, but because they actually know how to do some stuff, be it as a technician, as a producer, as a hospitality manager, as a venue. And I really hope that not so many venues died, but it's very hard to say at this point, because I don't know how many Berlin clubs will survive.
Whew, yeah, back to the sound though. Remember what brought us there. And I think, yeah, that purifies the intentions a little bit. Isis?
Yeah, I'm a serious optimist, so I will start to look at it from the sunny side. I have heard a lot of stories about, we hope this will survive, that will survive, and of course there will be a lot of damage that need to be recovered. But I think that it might even be possible that the scene will grow eventually, because people will validate the dance tradition in a greater way they have done before, or remember how important it is for them to join it. And also, I always compare social media to an online festival, So it's all kind of secondhand information we're exchanging with each other. And also the deep fake issues going on. You hardly know if things are real or not, what you see on your screen. But the only way to know if things are real are to see them with your own eyes. And if we are able to meet each other again and exchange information and inspire each other in real life, I really think, yeah, that's my hopeful vision I have for the post-corona situation.
Yeah, thank you, Isis, because I think this is a big chance that we have actually to shape some of the change that will occur in the post-pandemic world. We've been the scene that have always focused on how to make things better, how to bring more life and vitality and honesty and authenticity to our relations, how to break these barriers so that we are free to meet each other without this, gender or nationality kind of barriers. So I really also want to be optimistic like you are, and that we will bring some of these seeds that we've been planting in the past, that they will flourish in the future. Also, thinking about ecology and all the advancements we've achieved in designing sustainable events, even large-scale ones like Boom has been working on for so many years. So let's hope that all of this work is actually going to be more relevant than ever in the post-pandemic world. And just to close, if you have a message, each one of you, for the people that are at home, that are waiting for this moment when we will be able to meet in the dance floor again. Nuki, do you have a message for them?
I just cannot wait to see everyone and just have like a good dance. Just hang on there, because sooner rather than later we will be together again, and we will just shake the dance floor.
Thank you. And thank you, Nuki, for participating.
Yeah, thank you so much, for inviting me. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to see you. And hopefully we'll see you again in the dance temple soon.
Definitely.
Killa, message for the people at home.
Yeah, well, I want to say it doesn't have to be that boring. There are lots of interesting things to read online. So, for example, I got to spend more time reading the archive of the Lecon Collective, and I can only say, have a look. It's interesting. There are lots of texts about rave culture, about gender politics, and so on. I was personally reading medieval literature that my grandmother sent me. So, yeah, put some nice music in the background and read the book. We'll meet again and we'll be smarter, hopefully.
I love it how we always find nerds. Nerd in the house. Yeah, we love nerds in Liminal Village. So thank you, Killa, for participating. Thank you for sharing your stories about Lecken, about the Killa sound system, about life in the streets and in the parks of Berlin. Really was great to meet you, and I hope you will be able to play again soon.
Yeah, I hope I can come in 2022. I mean, I'm not letting those 2 tickets go to waste. So...
Thank you, Killa. And what about you, Isis? Message for the people. Message for the people. That's a big question, but yeah, let's not forget what brought us together, which is the music. And even if you're having a hard time right now, don't forget the music is the medicine. And I would say consume your daily dosage to stay sane and healthy. And perhaps use the time online right now to broaden your horizon and find new perspectives and bring them back on the dance floor when we meet again.
All right. Oh, thank you so much also for the wisdom, for the insight, for the optimism, which I certainly need in times like this. So we've had 3 wonderful artists show and share some of their experiences and thoughts. I would like to do some shameless self-promoting because we are also creating content about all this. So we have the Boom Toolkit, we have the Liminal PodQuests, we try to bring politics, we try to bring psychedelia, we try to bring some different kinds of topics to the fore. So check out some of our content, and also obviously anything that tickles your fancy, from medieval literature to anything else. I'm a science fiction nerd, so that's what I dive into of late. And yeah, join us soon. We're going to have more episodes coming up, more episodes in the Raving series, and more episodes in the Liminal PodQuests general series. Lots of love to everybody. And yeah, see you on the dance floor where we can hopefully rave on.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, team. Thank you to Boom for making this happen. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Thank you. See you in real life.
In real
See
life.
you in real life. All right, and that's a wrap. Thank you all for the wisdom, the optimism, the insights. We've had 3 wonderful artists share their thoughts and experiences, and that's what keeps the spirit of rave alive now that we can't be at the actual dance floor. I want to do some shameless last-minute self-promoting. We've been creating content through the Liminal PodQuests and the Boom Toolkit. We're bringing you different kinds of topics, politics, psychedelia, and unusual suspects in terms of speakers. And whoever is lucky enough to have some extra time now during lockdown, take the chance to immerse yourself in some whatever, whether it's medieval literature or science fiction or manga comics or the history of rave culture. And a big thank you to Unite for streaming all our content on their different platforms. And we look forward to seeing you on a dance floor soon, hopefully. Rave on.